Hi, my name is Emma, and let's talk spooky stuff. Welcome back, guys. We are back today with another monthly wrap-up. It is the end of July. Can you believe it? I think we can. At this point, it feels like it's been 20 years in 1 year. Anyway, I'm very excited to go through what I watched this month because I did watch a lot, and I watched a lot of horror, so I'm excited to talk through that with you and let you know what I recommend and what I think you guys should give a skip. But before I jump into it today, I'm going to start actually at the end of the month because I just watched the movie Host, which just came out on Shudder. I was lucky enough to be sent a link, which was really awesome. And I wanted to discuss this with you because I haven't put it on my Letterboxd yet, so we can do that live. It's not really live because this is a video, but we can do that together. And also, I just wanted to talk to you guys about it because I had so many DMs and comments asking if I'd seen it. I guess you guys thought it was my kind of thing. So let's start there and then we'll go back to the start of the month. Okay, I'm in my diary now, but we're gonna add in Host. You can see everything I've just searched. How awkward. This is Host 2020 by Rob Savage, I believe. I just saw. What did I think about this film? I just watched this like just before I started recording it, and I was actually quite impressed by it. If you didn't know, it is a found footage film that is kind of, what do you call that? I don't know if there's a certain name for that when it's recorded in screen. There's a couple of movies like that. Unfriended is probably the film that a lot of people relate this to. So it is captured on a Zoom call, and it is also, sorry if the light goes in and out. It's a very cloudy day and the clouds keep going over the sun and I can't reach the window. Short girl problems. Anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. Host is really interesting because it is done during a Zoom call, but also it's done during this time, which I think we're going to see a lot of movies coming out like this, and this is not the first one that's come out like this, but I do think it's actually worth a watch. I was really taken aback by how good the casting was. I thought all of the girls were really interesting and they have some kind of weird tension and chemistry between them. It's a group of girlfriends who get together, and there's a dude, but they get together and they're gonna do a seance led by a professional in this Zoom call, which I think is a great idea and I do want to do that. But obviously things get a little bit twisted and they don't take it seriously enough and they're punished for it. This film is interesting because they are really realistic characters, and they've got the girl who's like trapped in the house with someone that, they're having an iffy relationship. The person who's alone, the person who's like not trapped, who's living with their father. And I like all those dynamics. It really makes it feel realistic because this is something we're all going through and something we can all relate to. So I thought that was cool. Always love when horror, taps into real life, and especially now it is so relatable. So I thought that was really cool. There is some funny things that I really liked about it. There was like filters that were used that I guess people use in Zoom calls. I don't really use Zoom, to be honest. But there was also just some bits where, I don't know, I felt like, I don't want to give too much away, obviously. This is not going to give spoilers, but I just felt like it was let down by a lot, but at the same time, I don't know what I was expecting. It obviously had to have a conclusion. So I wasn't a big fan of the end, but I did like the characters and I liked the setup, and for a film that's under an hour long, I think it's definitely worth a watch. So I highly recommend you guys watch it. I was going to give it I think I might give it a 7. This is what I go through every single time. 7, it's either a 7 or a 6. I'm going to give it a 7. You know why? Because I think it's creative. I think it's done during lockdown. Lockdown's such a weird term. And I really liked oh no, I don't like the end. I'm going to give it a 6. Okay. I am not a fan of rating films. I don't know if you guys knew that. It's just, sometimes it's a lot and it's so hard because I always think about what was the last film I watched and what I thought about it and relate it. Oh, is it as good as that? But it's so hard because I watch so many different kinds of films like you guys. Sometimes you just can't relate the two. Anyway, let's go back to the start of the month. So the first film we've got in here is The Assistant. This is a drama by Kitty Green. I really enjoyed this film, but I don't think it's for everyone. It's quite slow, and it is about an assistant who's in the entertainment industry, and she's more like a PA, and her dealing with I don't want to say it's like inner work politics, because it's not really, it's like abuse, but her dealing with the harsh realities of what happens behind the scenes, and knowing what to do with that, and knowing who she can speak to is really realistic. I've been in this situation before, unfortunately, and yeah, I felt like it was heart-wrenching. If you have worked in the entertainment industry or in any other industry where you have seen really shady things behind the scenes, and power being used in the wrong way, I do recommend watching it, but only if you're ready for it, because it brought back a lot. I then watched Athlete A. This is a really sad documentary on Netflix about the American Olympic gymnastics team, and the corruption going on in there, and sexual assault. Very heavy stuff. Obviously, I started off this month really heavy. Thought it was really well done. I thought all the interviews were really well, so I gave that a 4. I do want to say as well, I will get to some other documentaries I watched. I take documentaries as, obviously I rate them for how they documented the process. It's a film I'm rating. It's not to do with the subject matter. And I don't want anyone to think that I rate things low, because I don't care about what it is. So, I mean, we'll get to that later. I Feel Pretty. I watch this all the time. Let's skim over that. I watched The Witch Part 1, The Subversion. I watched this in a couple of these movies going forward for a video I did about like foreign horror films that no one talks about, because I watched them all to make sure that I wanted to recommend them to you. I got a whole list of them. Anyway, so that was on there. If you want to check out that video, please do. Then I watched Left Bank, and that I also talk about that in that video. I watched Bliss, and I was not a fan of this one. This is a horror movie from the Philippines, which one of you guys recommended to me over and over and over again, so I finally checked it out. Unfortunately, there's a free version on YouTube that I believe was put up by the PR company, but it doesn't have audio for like, I don't know, the climax scene, so I don't know if I'd recommend that. They're going to try and fix that, I think. But I just wasn't a fan of it. It was like an interesting perspective of a woman who is an actress, and she's on set and something happens to her, and then it's like her recovery, but then she's having like fever dreams about it not being that, and everyone around her not being who she thinks they are. And it ties in several different subplots, and it's one of those things you're trying to figure out what the truth is. But towards the middle, I think it just took a weird turn, and I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it to you guys, unfortunately. I gave it a 2.5, so it means it's average, but definitely nothing that stood out to me. I then watched The Double. I watched this because I did a podcast with Bloody Blunt's Cinema Club. Try saying that 5 times fast, which was great, and thank you so much for having me. I'll link that down below, actually. And we talked about The Double, and we also talked about Us. So we talked about movies with doppelgangers. I hadn't seen The Double in a couple of years, and it was way better than what I remember it being. I would highly recommend this one to you. The film is a very weird, surrealist take on a lot. It's based on a book, but it's so interesting because I didn't know this either. The movie The Enemy and this movie were both based on the same book and both released on the same year, and they're both about doppelgangers. I don't know if that's like weird ass marketing, but this movie is about a guy who works in this almost place that is not, it's not real. It's almost like an alternate reality. And one day someone comes into his workplace and is the opposite of everything he is and everything that he wants to be, and takes everything that he wants. It's very frustrating. It's one of those frustrating movies that as you're watching it, you just want to shake him, but definitely worth a watch. I would highly recommend it. Really good sound design, beautifully shot, and wraps around in a weird way. Anyway, I then watched Severance and The Bunker, and I watched both of those for my foreign film video I talked about before. I watched Last Christmas. I hadn't seen this yet. If you, of course, me watching like Christmas in July, but it's winter here, so it's kind of like nice to watch Christmas movies in winter. Crazy ass thought. I was actually surprised by this movie. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Obviously, it's not the video for that, but it's about a woman who is struggling, just getting her life together, and she meets a man, and, you know, Christmas spirit, and George Michael, a lot of George Michael. But I don't know. there was something I really, like, the film was so predictable, but there was something that I really liked, the message behind it. Anyway, moving on. If you are into Christmas films and you haven't seen that, that part was for you. I then watched The Surrogacy Trap, which is really interesting because this is one of those movies I started watching, and thank God I have Letterboxd because I was like, this is sounding really familiar, and I typed it into my diary and I had seen it before. It is a film about a woman who is having a baby, and she lives in this apartment, like a duplex, and the other couple who live on the other level of the duplex, they are also expecting, and then they have a weird kind of tension between them, and it gets really creepy and really dangerous. That was the worst explanation, but if it sounds interesting to you, check it out. I give it a 2, but as you guys know, I like kind of like stalker and obsession films, and I feel like this kind of has a little bit of that, so would recommend that if you're into that also. I then watched Mercy Black, which I can't believe I've never seen this. This is on Netflix, I believe, or at least American Netflix. I think I was using my VPN. So this is interesting because it feels like almost as if it's Slender Man ripoff a little bit. It's about a woman who does something when she was a child, and it's kind of Slender Man-ish true crime stuff, if you know what I mean. And you know, years later, she is still recovering from this, and she gets to go back to her life as it was, or attempt a life as it was, and all of her past demons come back, which is Mercy Black. So yeah, oh my god, that blurb gave more away. It's cool because it's kind of like, if you like really in-your-face paranormal stuff, it's got that. But I think it's like a hard pill to swallow for a lot of us. Not a hard pill to swallow, it's not real. It's quite fake. It's not the truth. The truth is a hard pill to swallow. I then watched Scary Movie. I don't want to talk about it. I was subjected to this by my patrons. We watch 2 movies together every single month, and they chose this, and I still have not recovered. Moving on. I then watched Widows, which is something that I wanted to watch for a while. It's an action movie about widows that have to pull off a robbery. Not really my kind of thing. It was alright though. It wasn't too bad. Interesting movie. The next film I watched, I pronounced this so many different ways, so I'm just not going to say the name, just in case I pronounce it wrong this time. But I did a review on this one, so please go check it out. I think you guys will really like it. It is on Shudder at the moment. I then watched Follow Me, which I did a come with me to the cinema. Sorry, the lighting's changed. I did a come with me to go watch this film. So definitely check out that if you would like that. But it is a movie about an influencer, like a social media influencer, who goes to Russia on a trip with his friends, and when they're there, they decide to participate in a escape room, and everything goes wrong. Surprise, surprise, it's a horror movie. The next movie I watched is Baby Teeth, which is an Australian drama, dark, like comedy drama, which is getting so much praise around the world. I wasn't a huge fan of the movie. I didn't hate it either, but I was quite surprised by the stylization, which I thought was really amazing, but the storyline was like a little bit, I don't know, all over the place, muddly, but I would recommend it still. I mean, it's an Australian film, I'm gonna recommend it. Next, I watched The Woman in Black, which I have not seen since it came out, in 2012. I went and saw this at the cinema. I didn't remember being the biggest fan of it, and watching it back, I don't think it's too bad. It's like a gothic ghost tale. If you're into like things like Crimson Peak, you might like it. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it. I have not seen the second one. I do need to check that out. The next movie I watched is The Vigil, which if I haven't rated them in this list, it's usually because I have a video coming out about them, or they're embargoed, so I've been sent a link or something like that I can't talk about them yet, so I just put them down that I've seen them. The reason I have not rated this yet is because I did go to the cinema and see this one, and I do have a video ready for you guys, but I had a couple of things that I wanted to put out first, and this just popped up in the cinema, and I was not anticipating it coming out at all, so I've got that ready, and I'll probably put this out, maybe even my next video or the video after that. I then watched The Pool, which is a Thai horror movie, and this is on Shudder as well, but it is from 2018, so you could have seen it somewhere else. I am not a fan of this movie. There was a lot of people talking about this movie because it has very intense animal cruelty, I'm just going to say that because I know a lot of you guys are not there for that, and I don't think that ruins it because there's a couple of animals in this, and I would highly recommend, if you're not into animal cruelty, don't watch it, because I love animal cruelty, but I don't mind. I understand when it's in films, especially horror movies. They always use it as, bait. But in this one, I felt like it was just so random, and it just did not bring anything to the film except for it was just so brutal and just like tacked on. I was not a fan. Also, there's a crocodile in this that looks like an alligator, and I'm not a fan of the CGI. I liked the setup. The idea is that they get stuck in a pool, and then there's like a crocodile that comes out of the sewer and is like trying to attack them. Not out of the sewer, actually. Doesn't he walk in? I forget how the crocodile gets there. But anyway, it's a good idea and premise. And I do think there's actually another film with this same premise. There's Frozen, where they're stuck on an ice chairlift. A chairlift. There's like sauna. There's so many other ones where they're like stuck in certain areas. And so I don't mind it, but like the idea of it, but the execution was all wrong for me. I watched The King of Staten Island. I actually really liked this film. It's a comedy that's out now. It stars Pete Davidson, and I believe it's very close to his heart. I think he co-wrote this film, but it's about like him trying to get his stuff together. Just like Last Christmas, a little bit different though. But it's really interesting because something I did not know about him was how this ties into his life. The character he actually plays, I think, is a dedication to his father because it's the same name as his dad, but also his dad is brought into it with being a firefighter, and his real father was a firefighter who died fighting in 9/11. So that's really sad. I mean, that has nothing really to do with the movie, although they do go into firefighters and things like that. This sounds really random, but it is about him trying to get his stuff together and just kind of figure out who he is, and yeah, just get back on track after grief and loss, and yeah, realizing and coming to terms with things. There's a lot in there, but it is a comedy, and I felt like it was really awkward at the start, and then once it got going, it was really lovable, and I highly recommend it. I don't really know much about him. I looked into him afterwards and I was like, yikes at some of the stuff, but I really did like this film. I thought it was really well done. Then I watched Gaslight. Yay! I watched that because every single month I do a stream with my friend Vicky from Nightmare Maven. Who is Nightmare Maven? Normally we pick a topic, a taboo topic, or just like something that we want to pick apart, and we did it on gaslighting, and that's why you see The Invisible Man and Unsane afterwards. We did it on Unsane and The Invisible Man, but the term gaslighting actually comes from this, well, it's a play that was turned into a movie, which is this movie from 1944, so I felt like I needed to watch that to kind of understand, and that is for free on YouTube, so check that out if you're interested. And then obviously I rewatched The Invisible Man and Unsane, both films that I love. I was really interested to watch The Invisible Man the second time because this is only the second time I've seen it since I saw it in cinema. And if you guys don't know, in February I was really lucky. Universal Pictures let me host my own private screening of Invisible Man, so I had like this emotional attachment to it. So I felt like watching it again, I wasn't sure how I'd feel, and I think I liked it more, to be honest. Unsane is like one of my favorite films of 2018. I think it's an incredible film. If you have not seen it, please watch it. It is about a woman who is being stalked, and she gets put into a mental facility. She's got to use her smarts to figure out how to get out of there. Next, I watched State of Play, which is kind of like a political drama action about a conspiracy that is going on with a congressman, and yeah, it has Russell Crowe, Rachel McAdams, and they're journalists, and they're trying to get to the bottom of the issue. I wasn't a big fan of this film, but I do think it was done okay, but yeah, it wasn't one for me. Next, I watched The Invisible Guest, and this is a movie I would recommend 100%. This one is a thriller, a Spanish thriller that is insane and will have you guessing until the final moment, and I promise that. It is about a man who is trying to figure out how to plead his innocence, and he's working with someone and he's retelling the story of this event that happened and why he is innocent in order for her to help him go and be on trial and what to say. So it's like you hear the story told out that way and then you see it and then you see it a different way. And it's really good. It's really good. I would recommend it. It's on Netflix, I believe, in most countries. But if you do have a VPN, you can just switch it over. But highly recommend The Invisible Guest. I think a lot of you guys will really like that one. I then watched Woofy, which I talked about in a recent video, but such an amazing movie. It's a Russian film about a girl who is severely neglected as a child, and it has some really interesting imagery, and it's very brutal and very dark and very disturbing. Highly recommend though. Some of the imagery is so beautiful. Like she goes and she plays in the cemetery. It sounds like really creepy, but it's like her only friends are like these dead people. Yeah, very creepy. But it's I don't know, it's really interesting. I then watched The Rental, which a lot of you guys were really excited about. This is the new Dave Franco, the only Dave Franco horror movie that he's directed, which I didn't mind. I actually thought it was pretty good. Not a big fan of like the fact there was no real message in the film and it was a little bit confusing that way what it was meant to mean. But the film is about two couples who go away to celebrate like a deal two of them have got at work, and they share this rental apartment, which I guess is like an Airbnb, their way of saying Airbnb, and some creepy things that happen there while they're there. Things just aren't what they seem and they feel like they're being watched. So would recommend. I thought this film was going to be paranormal because of the poster, and I did talk about that in a recent video, but it wasn't. It wasn't. But it is creepy and interesting, and I love the casting. Not a big fan of where it went. Well, I mean, it was fine, but I guess it was fine is my issue. But I do think the casting was really good, and Alison Brie, she's so funny. I love her in this. I then watched Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm not going to say much about this. Wasn't a fan. Do like Jim Carrey. Wasn't a fan of this film. But this month, one of my favorite films I watched this month is oh my God, I love it so much. I better not cry again, is a documentary called Mucho Mucho. I probably say it so bad with my Australian accent. My pronunciation is not bueno. Amor. And it is about a lovely human being called Walter Mercado, who is bigger than life, and he was a astrologer, a very famous TV personality in Puerto Rico, and about his life. And the film it's not really about anything amazing that happens, and you see I've rated it really highly, but it's about this person, this man who's just, oh man, transcends. Like, seriously, I don't know what, this thing had such an effect on me. He's such a beautiful human being. I watched this film just really randomly, and he's just beautiful. I'm sure some of you guys know who he is. I didn't know much about him before this, and I felt like this was just a beautiful look at someone who was just completely wholesome. And sometimes it's nice to look at that kind of stuff, especially when I'm like watching films like Woofy. Like, I really appreciated that moment in my life. I sound really weird. This is what happens to me, guys. I get really wrapped up in films. I get a lot of comments saying that's why you like watching me, because I'm like over enthusiastic, but I'm very enthusiastic about that documentary. I thought it wasn't trying to angle at anything. It was just trying to show something, and I think that it speaks for itself. I then watched The Changeling. This was a rewatch. I haven't seen this in years, and I really appreciated it. If you haven't seen it, it's from 1980. It's about a man who moves into this house after an awful event in his life, and he finds out something in the house is just not right, and he goes and kind of it's like a haunted house movie, but it's also like a murder mystery, and he's trying to figure out like what happened in that home and get to the bottom of the murder. So highly recommend that one. If you have not seen it, what are you waiting for? Definitely check it out. I then watched The Death and Life of Marsha P. Johnson. So this is what I was talking about before, when sometimes when I say I rate documentaries on how they're presented. not on how much I like the subject. And in this one, obviously, the subject is about a trans woman who was murdered and her unsolved, cold case years later, and going over that, and then going over all the people's lives she touched and how she changed a lot of stuff. But I felt like the movie didn't do it justice. I felt like it was such an interesting story and a very important story, but I felt like it was just kind of all over the place at times. I don't know. It just didn't work 100% for me. It kind of lost my attention. Even though there was so much good information in there, I just felt like it was edited a little bit too loosely, and it could have had such a big impact, and it should have such a big impact. So that's where I am with that. I do recommend it though. It's on Netflix, and I always think these things are important to watch. I then watched Unhinged. Oh my God. This is the Russell Crowe film about him having road rage. I was so excited to see this film just because if you know me, you know I love my stalker films, you know I love my obsession films, and this film was that. It was 100% that, and I was here for it. It's not a great film by any means, but it was something that really was satisfying to me. I did do a Patreon, it will probably go up next week, a Patreon only come with me, because I went and saw this in the cinema. I was really lucky. 4 other people in the cinema to go see this. And yeah, I haven't rated it because I'm not too sure what I'm going to rate it yet, but I think I have to give it like a 6, but I really want to give it an 8. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And thank you to the people who DM'd me about this. A couple of people DM'd me and I looked it straight up and I was like, Russell Crowe, like, I don't want to see this movie. And then I realized later what joy that this film would bring me when I saw the trailer. And that is a good example of sometimes I don't watch trailers. Sometimes if I'm not interested in the film, maybe just watch the trailer. You might change your mind. And then we came home and we watched Jewel. I was talking about this with some of you guys. Australians say jewel and duel. I'm not going to say the name of this film anymore. We sound the same when we say those 2 words. Duel. Jewel. Lord have mercy. This is a movie from 1971. It reminds me a lot of The Hitcher, but not as good. But it's about a man who was having a road rage incident. We followed this up, obviously, with Unhinged for a reason. Across, states in America on a road trip. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of all there is to it. I wasn't a big fan of it. It kind of was all over the place. It's based on a book, and they had his, internal dialogue, or as a VO, which I don't think it works very well. And I get why they do it when it's based on a book and they need to include certain information. But if they can't find a workaround, maybe it shouldn't be a movie. And then I watched Host, which we just rated. Let's move on to the TV shows I watched. I watched the first 2 seasons of Dark. I'd seen the first season of Dark before, but I wanted to rewatch it before getting into the 3rd season. So I wanted to watch it all together. So Dark is a German TV show that is on Netflix. It is an amazing TV show about time travel. It is about a small town in Germany where a kid gets mixed up into some real dark stuff. And it draws a lot of parallels, and it's just a really interesting show because it's time travel unlike what you've seen before. And what I really love about it is it's explained really well. The characters seem excessive at the start, but if you haven't seen it before, just give it a second because it does work itself out, because there are a lot of characters in this town and it's showing the effects one person's life can have on everyone, and it has a lot of surprises. And what I really like about this TV show is it has a lot of payoffs. This is purely because when there's time travel involved and there's different people moving throughout different times, you get to see the payoff of someone revisiting or seeing someone for not for the first time, for the second time, I guess, but realizing who someone else is. And it's, I don't know, you just get payoffs upon payoffs on this show, and you don't have to wait the 20, 30 years that the people in the show had to wait to see this other person. Am I making any sense? There's time travel. It's complicated, but it's a beautiful, moody show. And it's just really well done. I highly, highly recommend it. A couple of you guys said that you couldn't watch it because the dub was so bad. please don't watch the dub version. It is worth it to watch the subtitle version. And the show isn't that long. I think it's the first season has 10 episodes, and then the last 2 seasons have 8 episodes, and there's only 3 seasons, and that's it. So I'm halfway through the 3rd season now. I really enjoyed the 2nd season and the 1st season. 3rd season, not as much, but I've heard it has a really good ending, so I'm hanging in there. The other thing I watched is obviously Ju-on, and I did a whole breakdown on this, mainly talking about why it was received the way it was. And yeah, if you guys want to go check that out and let me know what you think about that show. But it is obviously about the origin of where The Grudge came from and all different stories that kind of come together about that. There's rumors there might be a season 2, so if you liked season 1, keep an eye out. I'm sure there's more disturbingness to come. Before I go today, I really want to talk about a book I've been reading. Finally, I'm reading House of Leaves, which I have spoken about before. I've had this book for about 10 years and I've started it so many times and put it down, but I'm trying to read this with a group of friends at the moment. So I'm doing good, guys. I'm doing good. I finally made a dent in it and I'm really enjoying it. And it's not as complicated as I thought it was. The book is about a man who passes away and passes on this this box of stuff, and in there it's so complicated, but in there's all these different kind of notes, and it's putting that together in the book, if that makes sense. So it's all different kind of stories colliding. It's hard to explain. It's very hard to explain. If you've seen the typeface for this book, it's all over the place. It's known for just being crazy. I think there's like over 100 different ways you can read the book because it refers to certain pages at certain times, and there's different stories cut in between each other. So it's quite complicated, but I'm really enjoying it. That's all I have for you guys this month. If you guys like these wrap-up videos, please give it a thumbs up and let me know what you guys have been watching down below. I'd love to hear. I hope you guys are having a great time. I hope you're staying safe during this time. And guys, we're nearly at 60K, which is insane. I'm going to do a live stream, I think. Let me know if you guys want me to do a live stream to celebrate 60K, just me chatting with you guys. And I'll talk to you guys very soon. Stay spooky. Bye.